The colors of silence. Isabella had always believed that art was a conversation between the soul and the world. Born in Lisbon to a family of architects, she grew up surrounded by precision and structure, but her heart longed for color, chaos, and freedom. By the age of 25, she was an emerging painter known for her abstract landscapes, blending light and memory into vivid compositions. Yet, after her first major exhibition, something inside her went quiet. Fame had come faster than she expected. Critics praised her emotional authenticity, collectors offered staggering sums, and galleries demanded new works every season. At first, she felt exhilarated, but soon, every brushstroke began to feel rehearsed. The more successful she became, the less she recognized her own art. The passion that once guided her had been replaced by pressure. One afternoon, while cleaning her studio, Isabella found an old sketchbook from her teenage years. The drawings were rough, clumsy, and free, full of imagination rather than perfection. She sat on the floor, turning the yellowed pages, and felt a sudden ache. Those sketches reminded her of why she had started painting, not for critics or collectors, but to express what words could not. That night, she decided to disappear for a while. She packed her brushes, a few blank canvases, and took a train to a small coastal village in northern Portugal. There were no galleries there, no expectations, only wind, sea, and silence. She rented a modest cottage overlooking the cliffs and began painting again, this time without any audience in mind. At first, the emptiness terrified her. She painted for hours, then destroyed her own work. Nothing seemed good enough. But as days turned into weeks, she stopped judging herself and simply let the colors flow. One morning, she woke up before dawn and saw the first light breaking over the Atlantic. That moment, fragile, brief, and beautiful, found its way onto the canvas. She realized then that art was not about brilliance but presence. Her paintings began to change, softer, more personal, less concerned with composition and more with emotion. Each brushstroke became a confession, each color a fragment of silence. Slowly, she felt her creativity return, not as ambition, but as truth. Months later, a local librarian named Miguel discovered her work while passing by her cottage. He was also a writer, working quietly on a novel about the sea. "Your paintings," he told her one evening, "look like the sound of waves, chaotic but calm." They began to talk often, exchanging ideas about art and literature, two worlds united by the same hunger for meaning. Miguel shared drafts of his novel, and Isabella read them aloud while painting. In turn, her canvases began to influence his words. Their conversations grew deeper, touching on inspiration, fear, and the loneliness that often shadows creativity. Together, they found comfort in the act of creating, not for recognition, but for connection. One evening, Miguel asked her, "Do you ever think art can exist without suffering?" Isabella thought for a long moment. "Maybe art doesn't need suffering," she said softly. "It just needs honesty. But honesty is often painful." Her answer lingered in the air like the scent of salt and oil paint. When spring came, Isabella decided to return to Lisbon. She had no new exhibition planned, no contract to fulfill, yet she felt ready. Miguel gave her a small notebook filled with quotes from poets and philosophers. On the first page, he had written, "Create as if no one will ever see it, that's when it becomes real." She smiled, promising herself to remember those words. Back in the city, her agent was shocked when she refused several high-profile commissions. "You can't just vanish from the art world," he argued. "You'll lose your momentum." Isabella simply replied, "I'd rather lose momentum than meaning." She opened her own modest gallery months later, not to sell, but to share. The exhibition was called The Colors of Silence. Each painting reflected her months of retreat, stormy blues, soft grays, and light breaking through fog. There were no price tags, only short notes beside each canvas, fragments of thoughts, questions, or lines from Miguel's writing. Visitors stood quietly, reading, reflecting, feeling. Among the crowd, a journalist approached her and asked, "What do you think art is, now that you've rediscovered it?" Isabella looked around the room, where strangers whispered softly before her work. "It's a dialogue," she said. "Between what we fear to say and what we dare to feel." The journalist nodded, unable to find words that could match the simplicity of her truth. As the night ended and the gallery emptied, Isabella stood before her favorite painting, a horizon dissolving into color. For the first time, she didn't wonder whether people liked it. She only wondered if it was honest. She smiled, knowing that the answer was yes. Later, walking through the quiet Lisbon streets, she thought of Miguel and their conversations about creativity. She realized that both painters and writers were searching for the same thing, not perfection, but presence. Art was not about what one produced, but about what one became in the process. That night, back in her studio, she wrote in her journal. "Art and literature are both mirrors, but not to see ourselves as we are, rather as we could be." And as she closed the notebook, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, not success, not relief, but peace.